Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, doing a sort of somewhat kind of monthly segment called Why You Know Review, where I talk about a group of albums that have come out within the past couple months that I have overlooked, haven't gotten a chance to review, and I figured I could just kind of give a quick opinion on them, gauntlet style. Starting things off, Guided by Voices, latest LP, Class Clown Spots a UFO, the second full-length album the legendary experimental lo-fi indie rock band has put out this year. Of course, their latest releases not sounding all too lo-fi, especially this one, being much less psychedelic and obtuse, abstract than the last full-length album they put out, which I gave a kind of on-the-fence review to. I would actually say that this is the album that the band should have put out first. It really would have been a much more accessible listen for people kind of grouping around them, because there was a hiatus before they started releasing albums again this year. This is much more easy on the ears, definitely something worth checking out. I think it is on par with the other accessible albums that these guys have to offer, like Half Smiles Decomposed, but still nothing extremely thrilling, exciting, or just revolutionary for Guided by Voices. Okay, next one, an album that a lot of people were asking me to talk about, the new Gojira album. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. These guys are pretty famed for their very clean, progressive, and awe-inspiring approach to death metal, especially off very celebrated albums like From Mars to Sirius, which is a very long, winding riff odyssey. And I guess I was kind of sad to see that fewer of those progressive rock elements have made it onto this new album, and they're not really being replaced with anything. I feel like on this LP, the band has simplified their sound to the point where it really kind of sounds like radio metal. Just the chugga chugga riffs and the hooks, especially on the title track, strike me as something that I feel could be played right after a Disturbed song, and few radio listeners would, click to another station. Which is fine if you're into that kind of thing, but I am not particularly. Though this album does take a pretty clean and just well-produced approach to death metal that I know is very popular right now, this is just not as impressive or ambitious as Gojira's previous releases. Next, the self-titled Debo Band album, out now on Sub Pop Records. These guys are an Ethiopian pop band with some really foreign grooves and bright horns. There are some pretty catchy tracks on here, and just a lot of personality, a lot of spice, musical spice, but there are some tracks that do underwhelm me because I don't feel like, as a unit, these guys play together that intensely. And I wish some of the solos were a bit flashier on here too, but outside of that, it's worth checking out if you're looking for something with more of an international aesthetic. Next, the new Antlers EP, Undersea. These guys are a very soft, dreamy indie rock band with some pretty celebrated releases, Hospice, Burst Apart, neither of which I am really a fan of. And if you are into them, that's fine. These guys, if you're unfamiliar with them, are known for their very subtle delivery that's supposed to be big on emotions and concepts. But still, even on this EP, the Antlers continue to create the most simulated sadness in underground rock and pop today. The onslaught continues with 4 new tracks on this EP, all of which kind of experiment with some more atmospheric, ambient, and more ethereal sounds. And that may be exciting for fans to kind of hear the band breach new sonic territory, but none of the noises, none of the textures were really gripping me. I just found this EP to be kind of underwhelming. I just don't really connect with this band emotionally, and that's it. Next, the new Jeff the Brotherhood album, Hypnotic Nights. These guys are a power pop duo. This is their latest LP, loaded with Songs that are built on rough distortion, simple hooks, served a la Weezer, with a bit of a stoner attitude. I feel like Jeff the Brotherhood continue to have just uniquely bad lyrics on their songs, but they also sort of seem to be conscious of how bad they are and can have a level of just a tongue-in-cheekness to it. And that's fun. I do think this band is fun. Pretty much every LP they have put out on some level is fun to listen to at least once. And they certainly have energy too, but I just feel like their songs can be kind of hit or miss, or just too alike their influences to really kind of make me feel like, ooh, that's new. Like I said, it was fun to listen to, but it's not a record I'm pining to return to. Micachu and the Shapes. Never. This is the latest release from singer-songwriter, sonic experimentalist, and music eccentric Micachu and her backing band, The Shapes. And this new LP, sadly, in comparison with the debut release that Micachu had, the hype behind this thing is just, ooh, so tiny. And it kind of makes sense when you look at what made the debut LP so popular, so widespread. It had some very strong, memorable, and catchy singles. Calculator, Vulture, Lips, great, fun, memorable tunes. I'm sure it also helped that some of those songs were paired with interestingly shot music videos. But music videos aside, Never just does not have many catchy songs on it at all. However, I will say Micachu seems to be as intent as ever to experiment with sounds and I guess different styles as well. There's a moment on here that feels very ambient, very kind of formless, wide, vast, and open. There's another track on here that strikes me as being a kind of long-form, stargazing ballad. But the biggest letdowns on here are the tracks that sound like tracks that could have been on the last LP, but are just way less impressive. Tenacious D, Rise of the Phoenix. A lot of people asked me about this record. A lot of people. And I gotta say, when I listen to this album, it really makes me kind of feel like the Queen of England or something. Like I just sit and I listen and I think to myself, we are not amused. I just don't feel like Tenacious D is funny. I don't think it's funny. And that's it. It's just not really my brand of comedy, which I imagine would be essential to have when it comes to listening to a comedic rock album. The latest Childish Gambino mixtape. A lot of people asked me about this as well. MC and producer Donald Glover brings another series of tracks on here where he showcases his kind of whiny voice, his very fiery flow, and kind of unaware rhymes, which is my biggest issue with a lot of this dude's work. That he'll rap about personal stuff, he'll rap about his perception of the world or the perception of his character in the hip-hop game, but to me it just seems so off. Dropping a line about how he's making it in the game despite not having a cosign, which is kind of ridiculous considering that he obviously came into the game from being an actor, comedian, writer, celebrity. And the other line he dropped about not letting these white people tell him how to feel. It just seems like the ridiculous finger pointing that was going on with his last LP where he was just lashing out at the hip hop community for just not getting him. He's just so misunderstood, and yet he's not even really that unique. And there are tons of rappers out there who are unique and are having trouble getting people to listen to them because they're so out there. But I did find this mixtape to be more tolerable than camp because Donald doesn't really do a lot of that personal stuff on this mixtape. Despite his line about not letting people tell him how to feel, he doesn't really go down that road all too often. He does a lot of pop rap songs on here. He raps over a lot of Southern style beats on this thing and just kind of keeps to his punchlines, his misogyny. There are actually some songs on here like the track One Up that feel like they could kind of work in the club. So was I less annoyed this time around? Yeah, I was, but I don't feel like it's because Childish Gambino improved his game or anything. It's because I like the beats a bit more, he's being less whiny, less overly personal, and you have a ton of features on here, most of which I like, but the only reason I feel like they help the album is because when they're rapping, I'm not hearing Donald rapping. Next, the new Anna von Hausswolff album, Ceremony. I was honestly disappointed with this. I thought her last LP was really, really good. Had a lot of raw, passionate piano ballads on there, and this new album sort of seems to be mainly centered around the organ, which seems as if it were recorded inside of a church or a cathedral of some sort. The songs seem a bit more, I guess, long-winded, obtuse, and the whole thing is just slathered in this very natural reverb that makes this album have kind of a dream pop beach house-esque feel. And I'm not sure I really like it. Her vocals don't strike me as being as emotive. The songs don't really feel all that memorable. It's just kind of an LP I don't know what to do with. Just really kind of a letdown for me. Not really the direction I expected from her, but because of how much I do like that last album, I will definitely check out whatever she does after this. Fang Island, Major. This is the follow-up LP to what was probably one of the most energetic and hyper-melodic indie rock records of 2010, this band's self-titled LP. And Major chases that album with a style that sounds more like just traditional rock songwriting. The band has toned down the guitar heroism a little bit, all the melody just a little bit, and they're relying more on their verses and their choruses, their bridges, just like I said, straightforward rock songwriting with an indie flavor to it. And it's just not as memorable. I feel like Fang Island has tried to make, I guess, a more mature album this time around, and they open it up with a really great introductory track, which seems like a more refined version of what they already do with piano and harmonized guitar leads. I would have loved to hear an album that kind of went down that route, but after that intro, you just get one regular kind of rock song after another, and it just kind of feels toned down and just less immaculate. Jeremiah J, Raw Money Raps. This guy is a Brain Feeder Records signed rapper and producer. This is his debut full length, and this thing does have 19 strange, colorful, smooth instrumentals that I think are pretty good. But I'm not really all that impressed by this guy as a rapper. He has this very kind of understated, quiet flow that is a bit monotonous, but he is just so quiet on this thing. He's almost at a mumble with some of these tracks, which I could totally see him getting away with if I was more into his lyrical content, which has a lot of, I guess, sort of contemporary underground hip-hop swag to it, mentions of girls, of Twitter, haters, money. I just don't think it's all that exciting. And I do realize that there are some subtle nuances in meaning to what Jeremiah J is rapping about, but what I have picked up of it, I didn't really find to be all that poignant. If I'm gonna go down this sort of quiet, weird alternative hip-hop road, I'd much rather listen to Blues New York or like Shabazz Palaces. Next, Coin Locker Kid, The Ghost Sonata, another alternative hip-hop album. This guy lyrically is way more abstract, has also a kind of understated flow, but just has a bit of a raspy, weird quality to it that I like. And the beats that he puts together are pretty strange. I did find it to maybe be a little too obtuse. I would have liked it to be a bit more hard-hitting, something like that, maybe a bit more colorful, but it is kind of bleak, dark, and just notably so. If you're looking for something on the stranger side of hip-hop, this is worth looking into. The new Peaking Lights LP, Lucifer. These guys have a quiet, almost lo-fi kind of aesthetic. It's subtly psychedelic too, with its instrumentation, with its effects, and even some tracks on here have a kind of dub reggae feel to them that I liked a lot. But it just feels so distant. There is so much reverb on it that I feel like it takes away from the music a bit, kind of alienates it. And the vocalist, she, I guess, is a bit underwhelming for me. I don't really find her to be a thrill to listen to. I don't feel like she has that much range, a beautiful voice, a lot of personality, I guess. I was just left kind of underwhelmed by this thing. I liked their last LP more, but I will admit that I wasn't really hugely into that as well, like I know some people were. Next, the new Garbage album, Not Your Kind of People. Garbage, 90s alternative rock sensation. And on this thing, I just couldn't help but feel like they're making a record that is going to appeal to the sensibilities of the now older crowd that kind of grew up on them in the 90s. To me, they weren't really pushing into anything exciting. I don't even think some of the songs on here were all that memorable. But in a way, it kind of reminded me of listening to that B-52's album Funplex. Like, sure, this isn't the furthest a band can fall, but it's not really an album I was excited to listen through. Next, the new John Frusciante EP, Letter Leffer. A lot of people asked me to review this EP. I thought I was going to, I just didn't get a chance to. There were other things I would have rather reviewed. And I will say, I did like it. It's not gonna end up being one of my favorite EPs of the year, but what it did do for me was that it excited me to hear John's next full-length LP. Because from what I understand, both this EP and that LP are experimenting more with synths and electronics, although from what I have read, he assures fans that this EP is going to be completely different from that LP. In what way, I don't know. But even if that LP is a smidge like this EP, it's going to be pretty interesting. And man, this thing is just such a mishmash of sounds and styles. Art pop, synth pop, just electronic music, and hip hop as well, with guest rapping on here from RZA of Wu-Tang Clan. And I guess my main issue with the EP, which is why I'm excited for the LP, is that I don't feel like this level of experimentation is complemented all too well by just the short 15 or 16 minute length that this thing has to offer. I just would have liked to have heard more, just everything kind of drawn out, develop more, just so I can get a better grasp of the kind of vision that John has going for this kind of collision of styles. And finally, the new Gaslight Anthem LP, Handwritten. These guys are a New Jersey rock group, latest album, and they, to me, have toned down their punk rock spirit a lot on this album to kind of embrace their usual Bruce Springsteen influence even more. Hero worship can be pretty cool, but I kind of feel like the 59 sound had the perfect balance between that punk sound and that sort of Bruce influence. I mean, it was just, you know, a tightrope walk executed perfectly. I will say that there are some moments where the songwriting and the vocals do strike me as being very passionate. I just didn't find this thing to be all that exciting of a listen. The Gaslight Anthem definitely have sanitized things a little bit, have toned down just their rock energy to follow in these Springsteen footsteps. I felt like they had something more original going on their previous LPs. And that is pretty much it for the Why You Know review for this month, however long it takes me to make another. Okay. Thank you for watching and sitting through this entire thing, if in fact you have, and you weren't skipping around or hadn't just turned it off and walked away. Remember, the good comment and the great rate, but only the strong, subscribe. See you soon. Anthony Fantano, Why You Know review, forever.